And hello and welcome back to the Good Eggs podcast. My name's Anthony McDermott and today we're joined by a very special friend of mine, a very special individual indeed. This is my friend Izzy Howell. How are you doing, Izzy?
Hello, oh, what a lovely introduction. And yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Good, and you are live coming here from Howell Studios at the Northeast Bic, is that right?
That is right, and that's why I'm sat with a whole film studio behind me. It's getting quite warm in here, so I may have to open the door. But yes, I'm here at Howell Studios at the Northeast Bic.
Bless you. I'm a bit intimidated because we've got an absolute pro from the podcasting world on here today. Izzy actually inspired me and us at the Good Eggs podcast to carry on and do a bit more of this. No pressure on me today while I'm being... it's kind of like... It's a bit Star Warsy, really. I feel like the Padawan learner learning from the Jedi Master. So, don't shoot me down too much, mind, Izzy, all right?
I won't at all. I mean, there'll be no Jedi mind tricks here, and I'm flattered. That's I mean, that is lovely. As I was saying before, that I'm always selling podcasting, but I'm not just selling the studio. I'm selling it as an experience anyway. And the fact that you're doing it, like I said, is reason enough for me to be proud of everything that we're doing. So I'm dead proud of you.
Ah, well done, me. Brilliant. That's the end of the pod. Fantastic. Good. So, Izzy, obviously, thank you for coming on to the show today. The idea of the podcast is really to find about you, find out about your life, find out about your career, find out about your wonderful, fantastic businesses, kind of talk about what got you to where you are today, some of the challenges you've possibly encountered on the way, and most of all, hopefully, inspire some people who may just be listening and just might take one or two hints or tips away. So let's get started then. So Izzy Howell, this is your life. So tell us, Izzy, where are you from? And tell us a little bit about your background and the early years of Izzy.
Oh God. Well, as you can probably tell by my accent, I am not a Northeast individual, but I have been here a decade, so I feel like I am an honorary sort of Northeast person now. I've lived here longer than a lot of other places in my life, so I'll take that as a win. But I'm going to take you right back. I was born in the southeast of England. I'm from Horsham originally, which is West Sussex, near London kind of way. It's basically Brighton was the place I used to hang out when I was a little kid.
Which is a cool place, by the way, can I just say? I mean, what a cool place to be.
Now. It was very different when I was a kid. I mean, I wouldn't recognise it now. And I then spent my teen years I was moved from the vibrant southeast to the middle of nowhere on the border of Wales, and that's where I spent my teen years, and then realised that I needed to go somewhere a bit more energetic, and my brother, who's 5 years older than me, moved to Newcastle to study film. And because he's 5 years older than me, I get a little bit of a chance to see what he does with his life, and then I can either go with it or do the opposite. And I would visit him here. I fell in love with it, and then I moved up here shortly after.
Brilliant. So which part of the Northeast are you resided in?
So I lived in and around Newcastle for about 10 years, and that's really where it was within a few months of moving here that my career started in the creative industry. So I famously worked at House of Fraser for all of 3 days, and then gave him my notice because I was offered an internship role at a local TV channel.
Wow.
And because it was something that I applied for loosely, thinking I'd done film at A-level, I sort of really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I got a job at House of Fraser in the Metro Centre. I was put in the lingerie department, which was and I literally had no idea what I was doing other than hanging bras on hooks, thinking this can't be it. And then I got a call saying that I'd basically got a role at Maidentine and Weir, where I then went, and then they asked me if I knew how to edit, they asked me if I knew how to make content, they asked me if I knew all this stuff, and I said, yeah, sure, of course I do, and I didn't at all. I lied massively to try and to basically. I just said
Make it
yes.
till you make it. That's what they say, isn't it?
I said yes. I'd edited a bit. I knew I liked it. I hadn't done anything professionally, so I just said yeah, sure, of course I do. And
How
then
old are you at this point, Izzy? So you left school with your A levels, House of Fraser, you're about what, 16, 17, is that right? Or a
no,
bit
so I
older?
was 18, 19 at this point.
18,
So
okay.
I was 19 when I started doing all this,
Okay.
and then did about 6 weeks plus there. Realised that I hated it. It wasn't for me at all, and
Yeah.
I thought if this is my taste of the film industry, I'm out. And then I went off and did a degree in English literature and history. But it was while I was doing my degree in English literature and history that I started working in the film industry at Howell Media. So I then ended up having to juggle both. So I'd be doing lectures on the socio-economic impacts of the Black Death and then editing some TED Talks. So my days were a little bit like topsy-turvy.
So
But
tell us just a little bit about, so you obviously got a love for the film industry, that comes from a young age, is that right? Um, so what does that look like? Are we talking big sci-fi epics? Are we talking murder mysteries? What or is it just the fact you just love film and the making of film? Tell us a little bit
you know
about
what
that.
it is? I am the least filmy person in the film industry ever.
Okay.
So I'm a book nerd massively. I'm a history nerd. I love anything that's classical, old timey. Send me back to the 1800s without the
Nice.
disease, sort of thing. I love all of that stuff, but my brother was more of the film buff. He is like he's flying in that world. He was always very interested in it. He studied it and everything. And I am more interested in storytelling. I'm more interested in ideas and seeing things come to life and taking, which is why I was rubbish at maths, is because there was always one answer, but I like stuff with multiple answers. I like
Yeah.
thinking up different ideas, and the creative part of it was more my bag. And um weirdly, I wasn't that interested in film, if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
I wanted an outlet, or I was interested in something that allowed me to deliver ideas and put something across and be creative. And I started off, I did do a lot of like freelance writing. I wrote lots of fake reviews for TripAdvisor for money. I've ghost written a couple of books that will never see the light of day. But it was just really, video was an opportunity or a way of me doing that, having an outlet to tell a story, and doing that in a way that you can see genuine results is what drew me to the commercial film industry effectively. So yes, there's obviously the film industry, there's Hollywood, there's big studios, TV, etc. But I was really drawn towards the advertising side of it, because I like the power of, if you tell a story and people don't realize they're being sold to, they get a connection to a product. And that fascinated me more than anything, because that's just the power of storytelling. So
Love
that's
that.
my dad. He's been in the creative industry my whole life, and he had a design company for many, many, many years. And then his clients, around the time when I was starting in the TV world and my brother was doing it, his clients started to ask about corporate video and video content, and it was becoming a lot more common
Mm.
to do social media content. And it was around that sort of 2014, 2015 sort of
Yeah.
time where video was like starting to really take off. And his clients were asking for promotional stuff, and he just turned to his own kids versus hiring someone. And me and my brother kind of then sort of dabbled in that world, and really that's how me and my dad ended up working together, is that I stuck around to help out one day and never left.
No, great. I love it. I love it. So you kind of early days in the film industry, sort of TV, I guess, or well, yeah, film industry. What was that? Obviously, you're doing lots of bits and pieces. So was that predominantly behind the scenes, or did you do? Because I know, obviously, now you've got your very successful podcast, and you've got some other bits and pieces going on. But at that point, were you always just behind the camera, or?
I mean, to be honest, I avoid. I am literally the worst person to talk about film ever, because I'm not really behind the camera either. I'm surrounded by filmmakers, but
Yeah,
I am an editor. I am a
you
business.
like the tacky bits, I guess.
I am often sat behind a desk putting all the things together, because that's where my favorite bit comes in. Like the editing part is the bit that's always kind of tickled that part of my brain that wants to make stuff, because
Yeah.
the filmmakers go out, shoot a bunch of amazing footage, and then they give that to me, and it's just a bunch of ingredients. And then the bit I love is taking an idea or something, or a vision that someone's had. Like if someone says to me, I'd really love to do an advert that does this, 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 and this, and then take their footage, and it's my job to just bring those two things together.
Love
And
that.
that's like, without an editor, a film isn't a film. Like editors have the most, have probably got a complex, because we are the most important part of a project and the most invisible, because
Yes,
when
true,
you're
yeah.
watching a film or you're watching a TV show, if you don't notice the edit, that means it's a good film or a good TV show. If you're
Okay, yeah.
noticing that things are jumping all around and you're like, oh, what's going on? That's a bad edit. So my job is to tell a story, leave people feeling emotionally just invested, and not notice they've been on a journey, and they can just get to the end of it and go, oh, that was really good. Like, I love it when my films that I put together for clients, it makes them cry, not for because they're not happy, but because they're really happy, because it's hit all those emotional points in their brain that's gone, I love it. And that's the bit that I like.
Oh, and that's why you're a good egg, you see. That's why we're
Oh,
here.
thank you.
So I guess you kind of came at the right time in many ways in terms of the movement of video and short form film in particular, and short form video. Um, and I remember this well as well. You know, people often forget that social media and the internet was very text and very, the odd graphic, but it was very text based. And video, you're right. I think it probably started a period about 2010, but nobody really took any notice, did they? Not really. And then I guess you guys were probably right positioned at the front, right and on time to kind of carry that wave. Is that probably fair to say, or?
Yeah, I think it's weird, because I think the 2010s, a lot happened at the same time to make that quite a big boom, if you will. Like, smartphone technology was massive
Yeah.
and massively took off. I think nowadays, if you buy a phone, you're buying a camera with a little bit of a phone attached to it. You're not. It's just, they're all about the cameras. So smartphone technology made things a lot more accessible in terms of content creation. The social media platforms became more video aware at the same time, because they knew that the technology was becoming more accessible. And then consumer behavior massively changed. So if you had the choice between watching a video on a social media versus looking at a picture, eyes were being drawn in a different direction. So then the social media platforms tried to keep up with it, and then everything kind of cascaded at the same time. But when we started making videos, I say videos makes it sound like it's something from the 80s with the VHS tape, but when we started making visually moving content at Howell Media, it used to be very traditional in terms of, it would be corporate film is what it
Yeah.
was effectively called when I started, which is the 3 minutes, lower thirds, name and job role. Hi, my name is Izzy and I work at Howell Media, and these are
Yeah.
my solutions. And there was lots of like corporate music, and they go on for a long time, and it would go on a website, and it was like a big thing. And we used to make a lot of those, and that was where we thought the industry was.
Okay.
And then every 18 months from then to now, it's completely changed. So
Yeah.
the whole landscape of content creation, the whole landscape of what audiences want to see and what they're capable of seeing and what their phones and technology are able to see, massively influenced where we went. So it's very rare, or I'd say I don't think we've made one of those traditional corporate films for years.
Yeah.
So it's more
Yes.
about the short form, it's more about variety, it's more about, little tidbits, or a long video versus that in-betweeny bit. No one's going to watch that anymore.
No, isn't that interesting as well? Because you're right, that was the big shiny thing. So if you went to a conference or an awards dinner or anything really, there's always a big shiny video, wasn't there? And there was always, as you say, little interview clips of, this is Dave, and Dave works in our power plant, blah, 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 blah. And you're right, it was, and it was funny actually, because I remember, because, like you, I've worked in marketing and been around advertising for years and years. And these videos are lovely, but they never actually had any use after they'd been watched once. So it was like this lovely flashy corporate video that people, their shareholders, maybe saw once, and then you never saw it again. And I never really understood that, because it was such a big outlay as well, wasn't it? So you can completely see why things have changed, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I guess the way it has transformed really is the fact that, yes, attention spans are shorter, but I think it's more influenced by what audiences want versus what businesses want, if that makes sense. Because back then, when we were doing kind of generic corporate film, was very much often to indulge the people in the business. It was to indulge the CEOs. It was to indulge the people who are stakeholders or whatever. But now it's very audience focused. It's very much like people want answers straight away, and they won't read 300 pages of text about why you're a great business, but they'll watch some short videos about it, they'll listen to a podcast about it, they'll do something, and audiences now are a lot pickier in how they do things. So businesses that have adapted and moved with it and worked with us and learned along the way and changed have done really well, and the businesses that are still back there, you know, are still slow to keep up.
It's funny actually because as you know, I used to run a lot of marketing workshops and a bit, teaching people how to market their businesses. I mean, that's changed as well. Even I'm outdated completely now because it changes so much, and if you don't stay on top of it, you're out. But lots of the things that I've been talking around and banging the drum for the last 10 years really is short form video. You must get involved with short form video, and so many people are like, no, I'm not joining TikTok, I'm not doing YouTube Shorts, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, fair enough. And the conversation I used to have with them though is, think about your own habits. You wake up in the morning, what do most of us do? And people go, I don't do that. Yes, you do. You pick your phone up off the side of the bed and off you go on a death scroll, don't you, right? Then what happens is you go downstairs, you might nip to the loo, whatever, brush your teeth, whatever, your phone goes on the side, and what happens? Off goes these videos. You're making a cup of tea, the videos are going on. Most of us are guilty of it. I don't know anybody who doesn't do that now. Lots of people say they don't, but I'll bet you they do. And it's interesting because businesses, I still don't think that's the right platform. They still don't, some of the smaller businesses in particular, don't get it. You need to be that person in that person's phone. You know, the days are gone where you can put a lovely little flyer up in a lovely little shop window and people are going to listen. It is short form video. That is the way the world is, isn't it?
It's gone to that extreme, absolutely. But I think it's gone even further because what I see is, yes, you should be on. I mean, God, all businesses should have a social media presence.
Yeah, of course.
It's like having it's like having a computer these days and running a business. But like having a presence, but it's better to have a good presence or no presence at all, if that makes sense. So like, yes, I get the thing where people go, oh yeah, Izzy, you're telling me I need to be making reels, you're telling me I need to be doing social media content, I need to be doing this and whatever, and they almost feel defeated before they've started because it's like, well, everyone's doing it, why will someone listen to me or watch me versus one of the Kardashians dancing around in their LA penthouses? Like it's that thing of where if you are going to add to the sheer volume of content that's out there, it's about understanding how you differ, how you can add value, and why an audience member will choose to watch you versus the next person they scroll past. So what makes someone stick around when they are in that doom scroll? Why do they choose to stop and watch that video? And understanding that psychology and understanding how you can have that kind of impact is equally or more important than the platforms themselves. So you could be on one social media platform and not on any others, but if you kept it to a high quality and made valuable content, you would do significantly better than throwing yourself across all of them and just churning out rubbish. So and I think a lot of people fall into that trap of thinking I have to be across everywhere, but all that does is just adds more work to what you do. I mean, we do have, like, which is weird because as I was telling you before, I'm working on our Howell Media website on the side as I'm doing this. Yeah. But we are AdSmart partners, so we work with Sky TV to deliver TV advertising, and that is something that is also classed as short form content. It is something that's classed as part of your marketing mix, but no businesses ever think of TV ads because they think that's just reserved for the big brands. Yeah. But in reality, TV advertising, as well as social media content, as well as podcasting content, marketing, email marketing, whatever it may be, all of these things should work together in their neat little package, and they should all go in the same direction. So, like, if anyone wants to be on social media, if they want to be visible, if they want to boost their brand, it's less about if I go on this platform, everything will be okay. And it's more about if I have this plan and these are the components that will help me get to that plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, completely, you're right. And I think within that as well, it's about being authentic, isn't it? So yeah, you can be on these platforms, you can be on wherever, but people want to relate to you because the thing that we all have now, more than we've ever had before, is choice, isn't it? Right? And none of us like being sold to, right? Nobody gets out of bed in the morning and goes, I want somebody to sell me something. However, we're all being sold things every single second of our lives, right? You turn your phone on, there's an advert, and every one of these things is connected to something that's trying to sell you something down the line. It's the way we live. So what we do is we switch off to that, don't we? We switch off to the not. We're very good at it now. We're so good. It used to be years ago, you would walk through a shopping centre and the guy would go, would you like to buy your Sky TV or your gas and electric? And you just go, no thanks, no thanks, and off you'd go. Now, we do that with technology and digital, and actually people are very good at doing that. So I always think that people just have to be different and be authentic. Would that be something you would kind of share? Or
Yeah, absolutely. It's a mixture of, well, starting off with the concept of answering a question. So we have because I do a lot of training on this stuff, but the four main pillars of content that I go through is your content should either educate, motivate, inspire, or entertain. And if it does one of those four things, it has a purpose, and people will only watch content if it has a purpose. So even if it is an advert, and that's the thing is that, like, you're not just doing the classic sort of sofa salesman for $14.99 sort of thing. You're going in and you're telling a story, and you are talking about a journey, or you're talking about you're teaching someone something, or you're providing value effectively. If you educate, motivate, inspire, or entertain, you are providing value, and audiences are a lot more comfortable with giving you their time to be sold to if they're getting value from it. So that's why when a lot of people run like free webinars, or they offer free lead magnets, they offer content, because that is an opportunity to sell, but the value's there. So you accept it a little bit. Like, it's a bit like, when you go on a website and it says, you want to buy some new shoes or something, which is me most of the time, and it says, give us your details and we'll give you 20% off your first order. You go, yeah, all right, and you just willingly give your information over for that bit of value. So if people are willing to do it, they're willing to give the money, they're willing to commit, they're willing to give their information, but they have to feel like there's a purpose behind it. So in terms of any kind of content, effectively, it's gotta have that real purpose. And when it comes to selling as well, like I said, I think people don't like to be sold to, but it takes now the frequency of any kind of piece of advertising is 7 times to see something before you buy it. So an audience member should see that product or that service 7 times. And when you think about it, that's your job as a person who's selling a product, or your job marketing your brand isn't to, let's just throw some stuff on TikTok and hope for the best. It's thinking, right, my audience member's over here, I'm here, and I've got 7 chances to tell them about this product. What options do I take to hit that 7? Are they going to get an email about it, and then are they going to listen to it on the podcast? Are they going to then see me on social media? Are they then going to hear me at an event? And are they then going to watch me on TV? And then you kind of go through it and you think, right, okay, well, what is that 7? What is that 7 that I can hit? And when the audience member has seen it 7 times, even if it's just going past going, oh, get lost, I don't want to see Izzy's face again, even if it's that, they're still seeing it, and you're still in their brain. So frequency is really important, but value is essential as well, and that combination is what I love.
I love it. And so many great hints and tips here, by the way, so make sure you've all got your notepads and listening to Izzy, Mike, because she's a genius. Izzy, just talking about your story a bit more then. So obviously you started working with your dad. What year are we talking here then? Is this kind of mid-2010s, is that right?
Yeah, it's about 2016, 2017.
And at this point, are you an employee, or did you come in as part of the business, or how did that kind of work?
I've always been, well, up until a couple of years ago, I've always been self-employed.
Okay.
And I would freelance for Howell Media, with it doing well is in my best interest, because the more work we win, the more that would make me. So I worked alongside my dad as a freelancer, but mainly just used the time that I wasn't working on projects to sell. So we together built our brand pretty quickly, actually. Like we're very, as you can see by the studio that I've had for 5 months, that we've just built it, we're quite quick at things. So if we're very similar in the sense that if we have an idea or we've got this thought or this thing that we know could work, we'll do it straight away. So with Howell Media, it used to be called Howell Film. So back then we thought, right, we now offer film because that's what we did, corporate film. And and often people called us Howell Films, which really upset me because I was like, that's not us. And then as we grew, as we changed through the pandemic, all this stuff, as we said yes to stuff, basically, that influenced what services we provided. And it's taken about 10 years of us trying on different things and trying different stuff and seeing what works, what services, what stuff. We're always changing. And then it was over the years, really, when there needed to be that marketing mix, when people needed to diversify between video, imagery, social media content, email, all this stuff. We then changed our name to Howell Media, and we've been that for about 3 years now. And that just kind of, it pigeonholed us a little bit, being just Howell Film, because that meant we could just do stuff with cameras. But being media, it fits our offerings a lot more, because often it's not always us stood behind a camera, it's us doing consultancy, it's us doing design, it's us doing all sorts of random stuff.
Well, it's sharing your expertise, isn't it, and being able to grow the sector, I guess, as well as people's skill set, isn't it, in a bigger way. Shouldn't you be, now you're in Sunderland, by the way, shouldn't you be Howell Film?
Is that with a double L-U-M?
Double L-U-M, yeah, Film, Howell Film.
I feel like people would be a bit offended if I go around saying film.
Do you know what I noticed earlier as well, just right at the beginning, we were talking about you moving to the Northeast, and you said I'm an honorary Northeasterner, and I like that. Well, actually, I don't. I prefer you said honorary Mackham, but I like how you sat yourself right on that garden fence there, Izzy.
I learned very quickly about the divides. And I mean, in certain company, I'll call myself an honorary Geordie. I'll call myself an honorary Mackham, and in other company, I'll call myself an honorary Pityaker. I'm learning, but very, very early on, I learned to know my colours.
It's crackers, isn't it? No, great. So Howell Media was going along quite nicely. We're kind of around 2020 now. COVID, how did that kind of impact the business?
Oh, you said the famous C word.
The C word.
The pandemic was interesting because we had a full order book for live events. We were doing really well, actually. I actually did a whole show reel and a whole thing about the new 2020 is the year. And we went and did TEDx Manchester on the 29th of February 2020. Where I bought hand sanitizer for everyone. We were in an auditorium of 3,000 people, and everyone thought, we'll just not shake hands, it'll be fine. And then cut to less than 3 weeks later, we're all in lockdown. So, and all.
Do you know what's really? Sorry. Do you know what's really funny there? Around about the same time, I was at a charity fundraising conference about March 2020. And it was all a laugh and a joke. We were like, he, and everyone was walking around and we were doing this thing where our elbows, we're not allowed to shake hands, but we could hit elbows, and everyone was laughing and giggling. And literally, I think it was 10 days later, it was like, boom, and we were like, oh, that's it.
Like, I took my computer home provisionally. Me and Dad it was very much like in World War II, where they said it'd be over by Christmas. We were like, Dad was like, oh, just take your computer home. We're probably all just being silly here. And then 5 months later, I saw him again. So it was a bit of a jump. But we kind of, it was a weird time, because as a family business, we had the ultimate benefit of the fact that we were in a bubble. So because we're family, meant that
Yeah.
technically we could work together still when a lot of people couldn't, and we're still very strictly working from home. So yes, and I completed my dissertation right in the middle of the first lockdown, and it was all very kind of weird, but the first few months of the pandemic were very much us going, right, okay, what do we do? And then in reality, that's really where our virtual side of things came about. That's where our live streaming came about. And we then pivoted massively from doing live events to, right, okay, let's get an ATEM, let's get this whole broadcasting set up, and let's just learn to broadcast.
Love
So I then finished my dissertation, got the brochure for an ATEM and just the manual, and just was like, page one, right,
that.
how to live stream. And we did that pretty much straight off the bat. So we were live streaming award ceremonies, we were doing virtual events, virtual award shows, all sorts of stuff. um, and what was really interesting was the pandemic opened up a lot of strange opportunities for us, which means that it was horrendous, but it was actually all right for us in some ways, because there were a lot of so that we do a lot of work with culture spaces like museums, art galleries, places of heritage, all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff. And the government had obviously still had access to all these funds, the National Lottery, Heritage Fund, Lottery Fund, etc. And a lot of culture spaces have never been able to do certain projects because they're always open, but because they were closed meant they could actually invest money in certain projects that they've always wanted to do but never had the time to do it. So we were at the Bose Museum all the time when it was closed. Like, we were there for weeks and it was empty and we had the whole thing to ourselves. It was amazing. But
Love
like,
it.
we were doing a lot of culture work and a lot of projects that weirdly would have never happened unless it was for the pandemic. And then businesses were realizing, or finally realizing, that video was really important. And then, because that was the only way they could communicate when networking wasn't happening, etc. So a lot of budgets from businesses who realized that they actually did need it suddenly became more important. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
sort of positioned ourselves in a way where, yes, the pandemic was a nightmare and I would never ever go back to it. It did definitely shape us as a business, and a lot of our best work happened during it as well. So it was, yeah, it was different, but I mean, I would never go back to what it was like. I can't imagine it now, to be honest. Like, just thinking.
No. Although that being said, on the sunny day that it is today when we're filming this, but at lockdown one, I always remember just being sat in the garden for a long period. I actually worked all the way through, but I remember like finishing work or between, just sitting in the garden. It was red hot. Like, and this sounds really it was a horrendous time for so many people. So don't take this the wrong way, but it was a great time in some respects. I was the fittest I've ever been. I had the best suntan I've ever been. I read more books than I'd ever read. I did more work than I'd ever done. Like, I think I just embraced it really and just was like, right, this is a situation. Let's just get on with it. I mean, I did try and grow carrots in my garden because I thought actually the world was ending. That didn't end very well. I mean, the carrots were about so big, they were tiny.
They were
Um,
Chantenay carrots, were they?
well, yeah, exactly, yeah. But they were never going to be washed down with my 400 toilet rolls, so that wasn't great. But actually, lockdown one was all right. I quite enjoyed it to a degree. It was. I liked that regimented. This is your time to get out the house. This is your time to do this.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
sometimes the prison bars can feel quite comforting, can't they? Really, I think yeah, I mean, weirdly during the pandemic was, um, it it was an interesting direction for us, really. And I mean, personally, like, I mean, I completed the entire of Game of Thrones, the books, amount of time I had, and
After Tiger King, though, that must have been after Tiger King, was it?
it was around the same time, actually. And it was just, and I think that what we did as a business, which I am quite glad about, and it's something that we've sort of stayed true to over the years, is that yes, a lot of businesses do have a political stance. They're very vocal about their opinions, or they want to kind of add to the doom and gloom, effectively, is the best way to put it. Is that if you look through any of our content for Howell Media for the whole of the pandemic, it was all upbeat, it was all light-hearted, it was all positivity and look how much fun we're having and we're trying our best here and look, we're doing this, and we kept the positive vibes the whole way through as a business. Like, people would chat to us and it would be like there wasn't even a pandemic going on, but that really worked for us in the sense that we've always had this kind of bubbly personality. We've always been really colourful. We've always been a bit silly and worn bright coloured stuff. But that's always been the case. But we had to find different ways of doing that in the pandemic. And we didn't suddenly start being like, oh, everything's terrible and all this stuff. We sort of got into this headspace of, nope, we're in complete denial. Everything's positive. Everything's good. And people did warm to that because that was kind of what everyone needed, I think. So weirdly, the pandemic the 10 years I've been in the creative industry, I've seen a global pandemic, wars, recessions. Like, you cannot throw anything else at me. I'm like, go on then.
You say that, but Donald J is sitting right now going, "What was that, Izzy? What did you just say to me?"
Don't. I will keep, nothing will stop me. I will keep doing what I'm doing. But yeah.
No, I get it, and I love that. Love that. So kind of coming out of the pandemic, business has picked up. You've pivoted. You've got lots of different projects going on. Lots of fingers in pies now, I would say as well, doing lots of different streams. The business is growing, I'm assuming. More staff coming on. I guess that brings us to what, 2022, 2023. So at what point did you look at developing Howell Studios into a kind of standalone business? How did that kind of come about, and what does that look like?
Well, 2022, 2023 was probably the time in the business that was more impactful and harder than the pandemic, which was me having my daughter. And that, as a self-employed business owner, navigating motherhood and children and all of that was, the pandemic was a cakewalk in comparison. So I had end of 2022, early 2023, right up until about this, like March 2025 was the biggest impact and hardest time the business and me personally has ever faced. So when we moved to Sunderland from Barnard Castle, where we were based, and in March or February 2025, and really that was when things massively changed and they massively took off, and it was the sweet spot for me mentally, personally, everything, and it gave me the space to actually drive the business forward, and really we kind of worked, we sort of burst onto the scene in Sunderland a little bit, all colours and sparkles and stuff and crazy shoes, and sort of connected with people, and we're ourselves basically. I don't think I've ever changed for anyone. And then while we were here and we were doing things and trying to find our way, we started to get more interest in our podcast. Looks like we made it. And what happened is that we were building our network and people wanted to be on the podcast, and then suddenly people were talking about podcasting to us, and we were like, oh, this is a journey we didn't expect. And then we were sat in our little old office over there with our dear friend John Forth, and you know him personally. He gets excited by everything. So
John could get excited by a packet of crisps blown down the street in front of him. Bless him. I love him.
He's amazing, and we were showing him some technology that we wanted to invest in that could possibly be useful for us as a business, and the technology blew his mind, and he said, you should make that into a business, you should incorporate that, you should do it. And we were like, all right. And because we love a challenge and because we love the idea of doing something different, we then kind of got into the idea of a podcast studio that is a green screen podcast studio, that you get to have your own space, your own unique backgrounds. You could be as versatile, as flexible, as creative as you wanted. And that wasn't something that we noticed was being done in the Northeast. So that was our gap, and we filled it effectively. And then literally it was an idea we had in September. At the Growth Lab in October, I soft launched it and put a banner up and said that's what we're doing, and then pretended that we had the studio for about a month while we were waiting for this place to be free. This place became free and we built it in a day. So it was all very, very quick, and that was the start of December, and since then it's been juggling both at the same time. So
Brilliant. So what is it the studio does then? So if I want to come along to you guys and so I can learn how to do a podcast, I can do a podcast in the studio, is that right? And tell us a little bit about the kind of offer that you guys have.
yeah, so the studio is, I mean, it's classed as a virtual production studio, but we like to call it a TV studio designed for podcasting. But
Yeah.
it's not just podcasts. It is effectively, we have a space where you come in, you either sit, stand, do whatever you like in this space behind me. I feel very Price is Right in the minute. And you sit in this space. This is the space that you're in. It's a 6-meter green screen space that we have built basically ourselves. And you have your own, you can tell us what you want your space to be. So if you are more of a kind of clinical space, you might want more of a medical background. If you are someone who, say where you're sat right now, if you wanted a brick wall and a little sort of sofa behind you and a sign with your logo on, you can have anything you like. And we want businesses to just say, "Ooh, could I have this? Could I have a plant pot here? Could I have this picture of me framed on the wall? Can I have this?" And we just build it. And then you come in, you record your content, and then you leave. And you don't have to do any of the technical stuff. So we have built an entirely bespoke system that is pretty much hooked up and made entirely by us, using a variety of different technical equipment, which effectively where we live vision mix your content. So you come in, you record your bit, you have your studio time, and while you're doing it, it's being edited live.
That's amazing.
And then that content then gets uploaded by us, and it can then be distributed by us across all the podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Audible, YouTube, everything. So you get this really cool green screen unique space where every single business owner that comes in here has access to the space and has the same experience across the board, but their room is different, their content's different, everything's different. So the podcasting side is obviously great for people who want to do that long form content but haven't had the support or the people or the idea really of what to do. But the space, we've had people in here wanting to do fitness videos, we've had audiobook recordings, we've had e-learning content, we've had live events, we've had all sorts from this room. So it is amazing what people have ideas for. I've had every suggestion under the sun, and someone can...
And I know some of the suggestions we've had, so which we can't mention anywhere ever, but we will all know what they are.
Yes, there'll be a few suggestions on there that I can't mention, but we're a family business, so yeah, then people will say to me, "Oh, could I come in and book the studio and do this, and I'll go, "Yeah, sure, come in." So the space is designed for people to just book the space, pop in, do their content, and it's handled by professionals. So you don't have to have any technical skill whatsoever. We want you to be as creative as possible, and that's why I love it.
Love it. I love it. I love it. So you've had quite a journey, as you really, haven't you? I mean, if you think about it, from leaving school to work and you know, putting people's bras on display for them, not literally their bras on display, that's not the right thing, you know what I mean, to working on Made in Tyne and Wear, which, by the way, was one of my favourite TV channels, albeit had a terrible array of channels and programs on there. I loved it.
I mean,
I don't know why.
my first job was editing something called War Rugby, which I at the time thought was WAR, and it's WOR. And I learned that very quickly because I was like, everyone's spelling it wrong. What is going on? And War Rugby was, so it was, I mean, I'm not sporty in the slightest, but there was that one. There's a couple of others that I can't remember. I was interviewed for one, and I looked like an absolute baby. I looked so young and skinny and tiny and like adorable. And yeah, and I remember editing War Rugby and them saying, "Oh, you can just go on After Effects and whack in the rolling text and do this and this and this." And I was like, "Yeah." And when they were looking, I went on YouTube and learned how to use it and did it. But but now I think Made in Tyne and Wear just shows reruns of Judge Judy, so I don't
Yeah,
think it's thing.
Do you know what, though? It was all right, actually, slightly digressing, but I actually thought it was all right because it showed, it was what it was. It was a bit amateur hour in many ways, but what it gave was local people the opportunity to talk about some of the things, projects, their skills, their loves. I really liked that. I thought it was quite cool. I did.
Oh,
I
you
think it
never know.
gets.
You might have seen me on it many years
Well,
ago.
I might have. You might see me on it. But yeah, it got a lot of hate, but I'm a big fan of anything. We talked about this briefly earlier, but it's authentic and shows off people's skills and passions and love. And actually, I think the channel did that. So yeah, from the entire way, then obviously you went and got into to what you do today. Really, obviously you went through the trials and tribulations of COVID, bringing your gorgeous daughter into the world, and now here we are today. So what does, in fact, before we ask you what does the future look like, we do have two questions that we always ask on the Good Eggs podcast. The first question that we always ask our guests is, throughout all of your experiences, all of the things you've been through, all of your wins, what would you say has been your scrambled egg moment? So what's been that part of your business journey where it hasn't gone so well and you've had to pivot? I know we've mentioned that a lot, or do something a little bit different to make things go okay in the end.
Oh, so, I mean, there are two that spring to mind if I'm allowed to.
Of course.
The first one is weirdly during the pandemic.
Okay.
I mean, my dad will have his head in his hands when I say this. It's still on my bucket list. I haven't mastered it. I really wanted to get into roller skating. When everyone was like showing how like it's all these like really skinny, sexy women and these like long legs on the roller skates going down the beach, and I thought that's me.
That's
my head.
me.
That's me, and that will be me because I have nothing better to do. So I got a pair of gorgeous roller skates which were white with like roses on, and I was like, this is it. I am going to be one of those women. And the first time I went out, I went to Saltwell Park and got out there and immediately broke my wrist in two places. And then I had to go get a cast on at the hospital, and they had a whole team of like medical students waiting for this particular injury, and I had like 20 people watching me get a cast on with my pigtails and my roller skates looking like a total idiot. But in that time, obviously that was about 8 weeks that I had a cast on. I'm left-handed, it was my left wrist.
Of course it was.
We had a lot of shoots on, we had edits to do, I had to drive places and I couldn't, so I had to basically end up hiring someone to carry kit and be me.
Like a roadie. Basically,
Yeah.
had a roadie for yourself.
Yeah, basically. And bless her, she was a runner, she just started, and her job was basically to be my left arm. And the other scrambled egg moment, God, was definitely all the times when, because I only had about 10 days off after I had my daughter, so I was right back at it, and all the times that I had meetings and things going on where you can just see me doing this on the camera, and it's my foot furiously bouncing the bouncer or pushing the pushchair like this while I was on a meeting, or like now it's me on the phone going, get that out your mouth, or mid-sentence. But yeah, that was one long scrambled egg moment.
I love that. I love that. That's gorgeous. And I guess the other question that we always ask our guests is, what's your golden egg moment? So what's your golden egg? What would you say is that piece of advice that you would give to anyone in life or business, whatever you wish, but what's your golden egg that you would offer to people?
It would be don't roller skate. It would also be, and this is something that I've said on other podcasts as well, and I know it's hard for a lot of people to do, particularly if you're in jobs or your role is to deal with quite hard stuff.
Yeah.
But mine is effectively find any opportunity to have fun. Like, yeah. I am basically like, I'm like a glorified 5-year-old, effectively. I get excited by, like, if I've had to get one of those remarkable notebooks because I couldn't show up to any more meetings with a fluffy notebook with letters on it. My dad would have a heart attack. So what I'm doing is in my life, and particularly because, like I said, I had quite bad postnatal depression after having my daughter, and then had that whole journey of completely starting from the beginning and working that out, is that I had a lot of dark moments, and I think that the only thing that really got me through it was finding the bits that were fun, like and having fun and like being silly. And having a toddler is great because I have an excuse to go in soft plays and on parks, and I am right in there with her like a big kid. But like I think any opportunity where you can just have fun, laugh, and just find the bits that feel like, even if your job is something's really stressing you out, find the bit that just feels fun. Just enjoy it. Even if you have to, like, cartwheel down some supermarket aisles, or, wear a silly hat that day. Just have fun.
That's lush. And you're so right. People are scared to have fun as well in the modern day, aren't they? People are worried about what people think or care about. Do you know what? I love that you and your dad and lots of people that you guys surround yourself with. It's just be yourself, have fun, live for the moment. We only get one shot at this life. That's what we get. And without being, really doom and gloomy, you could walk outside tomorrow and it could all be over. And actually, do you know what? Just enjoy it. So I love that.
Yeah, I just like, we've tried to be the corporate people in the past. I've tried to fit in with that world. I've tried to be I've grown up basically in the past, and I've always failed miserably. But then the person that I am, and if I'm myself, I mean, it sounds really hackneyed, but your vibe finds your tribe. And I think that if you give off certain vibes, certain energy, the people that are attracted to that will find you, and then it makes everything a lot easier versus just trying to squeeze yourself in places that you don't fit.
Like that, your vibe finds your tribe. Ladies and gents, your vibe finds your tribe. I love that. I'm stealing that. That's going on my LinkedIn tonight. What was I going to say to you? Yeah, just a couple more things. One of the things I clocked as well was you were living in Barnard Castle during COVID. So were you? Is that not? Oh, I was going to say, were you responsible for eye tests by any chance? Then were you? Or?
No, weirdly, the Barnard Castle thing came about. I've never lived in Barnard Castle. I've only
you worked on it.
Okay. But my parents bought a house in Barnard Castle the same month that Dominic Cummings made it famous. So the first few months of me driving to my parents' house, the whole high street was full of like TV vans and people like filming the Specsavers. And to this day, 6 years later, you drive down the high street and there'll be people having their photo taken outside the Specsavers. It still happens. I have also had an eye test there as well, and and I used to commute to Barnard Castle from Gateshead almost every day, an hour there, hour back, and even with my daughter, and that's where it got really hard because I was bringing a newborn with me to there and back, which is why Sunderland now has completely changed the game. But the eye test stuff, it's old news, but it's still there.
Quality. And final thing, last but not least, give yourself a plug. Tell us a tiny bit about your podcast and where can we find it, because I know it's brilliant, so tell us all about it.
I will, but will you be a guest on my podcast?
Oh, there's an offer. I get my people to call your people. Absolutely, I will. Yes.
Good. I would love for you to be on my podcast, and so you can tell everyone you know about it. But we have a podcast called Looks Like We Made It, which has been out since 2021. And you can see from episode 1 to where we are now, the journey we've taken in terms of quality, quantity, everything. But we release episodes every other Tuesday. It all goes out over Spotify, Amazon, Apple, YouTube, everywhere. You can find it by searching Looks Like We Made It. We're under Barry Manilow, but we are there. And YouTube is Howell Media UK. But definitely chat to me, chat to Chris. We look similar, but I wear more eyeliner, so you'll find us.
He wears more hats.
Yeah, and more shoes.
Izzy, I love it. That's a fantastic place to wrap as well. I just want to say genuinely thank you so much for coming on the pod, but also thanks for being a good egg. I know we haven't really touched on it, but I know you're really keen and passionate to help and empower others. and you're genuinely one of the people that never goes out with a hands out going, please sir, can I have some more? It's always about you want to help the person, and I love that. So if anybody does want any advice in, I guess, anything to do with media, give Izzy a shout. She's on the usual channels, but you'll find her on LinkedIn as well, and all over the place. But thank you so much for being a good egg, and thank you for inspiring me, for inspiring this pod, and for inspiring lots of people. And
Thank you. And thanks for having me. I feel like I said I've sort of forced myself on here, but I'm glad I did.
No, good. But honestly, thank you so much for being a good egg, and we shall see you next time. Thank you very much. Cheers, Izzy. Thank you.